Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video we're talking about Nintendo Switch, GameCube and Wii, Diablo and more. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off here talking about Nintendo Switch emulation on PC with Ryujinx, and Ryujinx just released their progress report for May. I'll drop a link to it in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. It's very well written and a very good read. We're just going over this at a high level. Interestingly enough, the first thing in the report is a fix here for Demon Slayer. This is the before, and you can see some artifacts on the screen here right on the sword, and actually in a few other places. And here is the after, and you can see things are a lot cleaner, and that was because of a shader issue that they fixed. There were also a number of performance improvements this month for Ryujinx. If you take a look here with a Ryzen 5 5600X and an NVIDIA 3070, beforehand for Breath of the Wild it was running at 55 frames per second, and after these improvements it was running at 73. Skyward Sword HD was running at 127 and afterwards 159. Xenoblade Chronicles 119 to 127 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 32 to 41 FPS. A number of games received a number of visual fixes. For example, this is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition beforehand, and this is afterwards. The menu is looking a lot better. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was playable day one, with an emphasis on playable. There were a lot of graphical issues and performance issues that the development team worked really hard to resolve. For example, here are some issues beforehand, and this is what it looks like afterwards. Interestingly enough, using Vulkan is usually the way to go when choosing a renderer for Ryujinx. However, if you had an NVIDIA GPU, in some scenarios it would be up to 57% slower using Vulkan playing Tears of the Kingdom. OpenGL was performing better, and it seems like this issue has been rectified. The macOS version of Ryujinx also received a whole bunch of love this month. Here is Tears of the Kingdom beforehand, and Link's hair is kind of crazy. And here is after, where things have calmed down considerably. On top of all of that, there were a whole bunch of bug fixes and improvements for Ryujinx, so I do recommend checking out that progress report. Ryujinx had an amazing month, and I'm assuming next month is also going to be awesome. They have a great development team. Let me know your thoughts about Ryujinx in the comments below. Have you tried it out? Are you using it? Are you a fan of it? Do you prefer it over Yuzu? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on, and we're talking about a brand new game in development for the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive. The name was unveiled today. It's called Earthion, which is a very weird name, but the game looks really cool. On top of that, one of the people working on this game, Yuzo Koshiro, actually worked on Streets of Rage, so it's a very interesting project. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to the series of tweets in the description below, and feel free to check it out. There's a lot of gameplay footage shown. It's very weird that a brand new 2D shmup for the Sega Genesis is in development. I might actually pick this one up. I think it looks great. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And speaking about games, next up we're talking about Nintendo and Fire Emblem, and the GBA version of Fire Emblem is hitting Nintendo Switch Online very soon. If you haven't played this one via emulator, which is my preferred way to play it, well, if you've got Nintendo Switch Online plus the expansion pack, you may be able to experience this pretty awesome game. And speaking about pretty awesome game, next up we're talking about something arguably a little bit more awesome. I could be wrong though, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, here, Devilution X just got a brand new release. And before we talk about this new release, if you don't know what Devilution X is, it's a port of Diablo and Hellfire that strives to make it simple to run the game, while providing engine improvements, bug fixes, and some optional quality of life features. And I would argue that version 1.5.0, which is the latest update at the time of filming, delivers on all fronts. For gameplay here, they've added in floating damage numbers, an option to auto pick up oils, and quest items now drop based on difficulty. They've added in widescreen load screens, they've added in a map in town, durability icon gradually changes to red. They've added support for the original Xbox, added support for Android TV, and a whole bunch more. In addition to all of that, there are a whole bunch of bug fixes, performance improvements, and more. I'll drop a link to it in the description below in the event that you wanted to check it out. It is free and open source. And speaking about free and open source, next up we're talking about Nintendo GameCube and Wii emulation on Android with Dolphin, just not the official version of Dolphin. We're talking about a fork of Dolphin, a kind of brand new fork called Dolphin Enhanced. This one is being created by Gamer64, the person behind System76 Enhanced, Dolphin 360, and a whole bunch more. I'll drop a link to it in the description below in the event that you wanted to check it out. There is no official release just yet. They're working on it. And speaking about working on stuff, next up here we're talking about a brand new English translation to Nakoruru. I think I said that one right. I hope I did. Anyways, here, this game is a spin-off of Samurai Showdown, and it just received a full English translation. The patch is 100% free, it's open source, and it's fan-created, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below in the event that you wanted to check it out. Furthermore, if you wanted to see the game up and running with the English patch intact, I'll drop a link to this YouTube video in the description below. It's a great way to look at it. Moving on, and we're talking about iircade, and iircade, I think that's how you say their name, just announced that this company is shutting down. I'll drop a link to the full podcast in the description below in the event that you wanted to check it out, but this is a really unfortunate end to a very interesting company. To be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised about this because in my opinion, this was one of Arcade1Up's biggest competitors. And I'm actually sad to see them go. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Next up here, we're talking about System76, and I do like this company. I like their laptops, and I do like Pop! OS, however they did just have a data breach. Now in my opinion, I would argue that this is kind of negligence on System76's behalf and how they stored data. It says here it started on March 17th, 2022 and was resolved on May 26th, 2023, over a year later. As for what was potentially exposed, names, physical addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers, they do say System76.com credentials and credit card information was not compromised. Now, for those of you wondering if the data is still accessible, this is the kicker. The data was embedded directly into the source code of the website, so it will be included in any archives that were taken during this time period, a time period of over a year. Due to the nature of the flaw, the data was being included to some extent on every page of their website. Absolutely crazy. Obviously, nobody is perfect, and they did own up to it, and they did try to take down as many archives as possible. But at the same time here, this is a massive security oversight, and thankfully it wasn't more serious than it could have been. On a quick side note here, for those of you wondering what operating system I'm currently using on my computer, I'm using EndeavourOS. I distro hop quite a bit. EndeavourOS is based on Arch Linux, just like SteamOS. I'm a massive fan of SteamOS. I use SteamOS probably the most, but at the same time here for my main PC, I am using EndeavourOS right now. Previously, I was using Linux Mint, and before that, Pop! OS, and I'm a big fan of Pop! OS and what System76 is doing. And speaking about the Steam Deck, last up here, and hopefully I didn't say last up already, we're talking about RetroDECK. And RetroDECK just got a brand new update. For those who may not be aware, RetroDECK is built on ESDE, which stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or Emulation Station Desktop Edition. Anyways, here version 0.7.0b just released, and this is a massive update. It's the first update since April. There's a whole bunch of bug fixes, improvements, and brand new features with this version. All RetroArch cores and standalone emulators have been updated to their latest versions. There's been a bunch of RPCS3 improvements, including adding a semi-automated RPS3 firmware installer. They've added in a new RetroDECK auto updates feature on launch, which you can turn off if you want. And they've also added in an option here to install the RetroDECK Steam Deck controller profile. EmuDeck is free, it's open source, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. The file here is a whopping 1.31 gigabytes. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.